following episode of Brew Talk is sponsored by Wolfhead Distillery, the first premium craft distillery in Essex County, located in Amherstburg, Ontario, featuring unique spirits you won't find anywhere else, like banana caramel vodka and coffee whiskey. Located at 7781 Howard Avenue in Amherstburg, Ontario, with a spacious outdoor patio featuring an innovative and trend-setting menu. Open for lunch and dinner, the restaurant offers healthy seasonal options from locally grown produce, offering tours on weekends. Call today to book your reservation. Find Wolfhead products and select LCBOs. Thank you for joining us. This is the first episode of Brew Talk. I'm your host, Eric Robert, and what we're doing today is we're going to spend the next hour with Tammy Joho of the Grove Brewery and listen to her story, give her a platform to speak about why she got into the industry and what it's done for her. Thank you for coming, Tammy.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
So to start things off, obviously our glasses are empty and we should probably fill them. So you did bring a few beers with you from the Grove today?
I did. So yeah, we can start kind of light to more exciting. I've got a golden ale. I've got, I'm not even sure, to be honest. I have two lighter beers. I've got a hazy and then I've got a seltzer.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's start with those.
We'll start with the smallish and go that way.
And so while we pour these out, I guess the idea is we're going to sit here and listen to who you are and why you got into the industry and why you are where you are today. There's a powerful woman in the room here who's going to talk about why she got where she got. And so I need everyone out there to listen closely as Tammy has the floor. Please, Tammy, tell me, why do you brew beer? What got you into this?
Why do I brew beer? I feel like this is a hard question because everyone has a different path to this location. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's two different stories. So after I graduated from college, I studied natural resources. I have a bachelor's of science. And I was with a friend. We were at a bar and we were like, we should open a brewery. And it could be like eco-friendly and, conservation and that kind of thing. And as we were sitting there, I just remember thinking, I don't know anything about brewing. Like, is that something that people do, because way back when, this is 20 years ago now, there weren't a lot of craft breweries. So it was kind of like commercial. And in my mind, brewing meant huge scale, boring beer, etc. So I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
The homebrew scene hadn't quite taken off.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely no stores like that anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I just sort of thought, yeah, that would be cool, but in fantasy land. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward a few years, I met my husband. We've been together for 13 years now. Mm-hmm. And I remember we were talking about what we wanted to do with our lives. And he said, I would love to have a pizza place and a brewery.
Sure.
And I'm like, great.
The millennial dream, right?
Right.
Give me some arcade machines in the back and call it a day, or a pinball machine.
If Masters of the Brewiverse was your all day brewery kind of thing.
Absolutely. Just drink all these fun beers.
Yeah. And so we just talked about that. And he just kept saying, you could do this, science, you can brew. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I don't know. I want to learn. So I went to a homebrew supply store. We got the equipment. I started brewing, and then I did that. And then I actually worked at the store. This was in Montreal. I worked at Bootlegger. I want to give him a shout out because my boss was also a female. Oh. She owned the store. Mm-hmm. She taught me how to brew. And yeah.
So she was the origin of your brewing experience.
Yeah, definitely. Her name is Nick, and I'll send this to her. But yeah, I went to get the equipment and she kind of went through it with me. And then she also said, we're hiring. And so I ended up working there for 2.5 years. And then at that point I went to school and I did a graduate level program in brewing science. So that's kind of how I officially got into it. But why I got into it was I remember I was at a bar and I was, I didn't really know anything about beer. And this bartender that I knew was like, try this. And it was a Bell's Two Hearted. And that's all I knew. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was a Two Hearted. So I was like, okay. And I loved it. And then as I kind of got more into trying different beers and visiting breweries, I'm like, well, that's an IPA and that's a whatever, stout, Scotch ale, whatever.
Became more familiar with the styles.
And I just thought that is so cool to just make whatever you want.
Yeah.
Or make what you like that's commercial, but make it at home.
Yeah.
And so that was actually my first clone brew was a Bell's Two Hearted.
Bell's Two Hearted. Yeah. Very popular. First beer for a lot of people. Yeah.
Okay.
We get asked for it a lot at the homebrew shop. So at what point did you decide that this is fun? This is what I want to do for a living. I don't want to work in a homebrew shop.
Have a real job?
I want to have a real job. Yeah.
I don't know. I think my husband and I were talking and we decided, like if we do want to have our own brewery one day, like we should work towards that. Sure. And so for me, it was getting experience in a brewery and learning from other brewers. Mm-hmm. And so basically I was like, let me do this school program. And then when I got out of school, it was like, COVID times and nobody knew what was happening anywhere. So basically I was like, I'm going to apply for jobs, see what happens. I got a job here in Essex County. And then it just kind of went from there. And I think what I really learned was that I love creating recipes and like being creative.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've met a lot of brewers that are more just into like production or more classic styles. And so they're like, I just want to do like the brown and the bitter, whatever.
Us brewers are a wide spectrum.
Yes. Yes. And I've met some that don't even like drinking those things, much less like making them. So I kind of feel like that's what the exciting part is for me, is just coming up with something crazy. And it's not even like it has to be crazy and, have all these like wacky flavorings or whatever. It's just like something that's interesting. And I'll find like, oh, I love this herb. What can I do with it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So
you don't need to follow into the stereotype of let's put 17 different flavors into a beer. What point is it a beer now? Or am I just making it tea?
Right.
That's
with like smoothie and milkshakey. And although milkshake IPAs are pretty awesome.
You know what? And you do raise a very valid point about a milkshake IPA. I had one recently at a competition. There was a competition here in Windsor. You might have been familiar with it.
I heard about it.
Masters of the Brewniverse. There was a Malibu Barbie milkshake IPA that was brewed. And it was people's choice.
It sounds amazing.
It was people's choice. It does sound amazing. Now, you know a little bit about that beer. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that beer, seeing as it was your beer that won people's choice. Congratulations on that.
Thank
by the
you.
way.
I will say I messaged Adriano the next day and I said I'm like, I know that I killed it. I was really proud of that beer, but I'm still kind of shocked that I won. That beer was awesome. I have to also give a shout out to our other friend Eric at Bandit Goose, who kind of walked me through his milkshake IPA making steps, because I hadn't really done many. And so he gave me really detailed instructions. That beer, though, I was really happy with, because I feel like, again, with the whole point of sort of being natural, I didn't use really any flavorings at all.
Yeah.
So it was guava and coconut, and I toasted the coconut. I used real guava puree.
Wonderful.
And the thing, I don't know if I should give away my secret, but the really exciting part was that I toasted the coconut, some of it, and put it in the mash.
Nice. Okay.
And so that when I transferred it and I started boiling, it was like already so aromatic. So
the whole room just carried that coconut flavor.
And I love making beers like that, because I feel like guava and coconut, it feels like I'm on an island somewhere.
Right.
And I just want to be on an island at a beach. Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll make sure that Eric gives you a special shout out on his episode.
He better.
But Go ahead.
I'll say, because I'm making him a baby quilt, which he knows. And congrats. He just had his baby 2 days ago.
Congratulations, Eric, on the baby. I was lucky enough to be a part of that evening as well, and I was able to sample that milkshake IPA and Eric's beers as well. But there's a reason why your beer won people's choice. It was the talk of the town that night. It was a fantastic beer, and will we be seeing a resurgence of that, or was it a one-off?
I would like to make it again. I think maybe where I'm at now. It would have to be a smaller batch as well, because I don't know, well, cost-wise, but I also don't know how well it would be accepted necessarily by the clientele. But I've had a lot of people ask me if I could make it again.
Sure. Are you telling me you can't get local coconut and guava?
Yeah, like especially with like global warming and this, maybe
in 20 years.
The shipping industry. Yeah, I know.
Coconut trees in Essex County. Well, that's fantastic. That was
Yeah.
a good, a wonderful evening, and I was glad we were
Yeah.
able to share that. But what I would like to focus on, and the main reason for bringing you in today, is I would love to hear about you and your experiences in the industry. I would love for you to talk about your Shut Up Rose project and your
Yeah.
Pink Boots project,
Yeah.
and what that has done for you and how
Yeah.
that has changed, altered your career, shown you a lot of the ins and outs of what this industry can and can't do. Please talk about it as much as you want.
So
I'll start at the beginning.
Basically, it's,
Shut Up Rose.
It was a collaborative brew, and every year, Yakima Chief, which is a huge hop supplier in the U.S., they create a Pink Boots blend. And what Pink Boots is the Professional Society for Women in Fermentation. So that's pretty much anything fermented. I mean, maybe even cheese, but like wine, beer, distilling, sake, cider, kombucha, etc. So it just promotes women in this industry, and it provides support. It's a whole information network. It's networking.
In a very male-dominated industry.
Right. And I will say, like, I joined a few years ago, and it's been very helpful because there are times you have questions and you don't want to go on these giant male-dominated forums and ask, like, where can I find female-sized shoes or whatever,
Of course.
So it's been really helpful. And they also provide educational scholarships to do further, continuing education and things like that in all sorts of areas. So basically, a portion of the sales from the hops go to Pink Boots, and then if people register to do an official brew day, part of those proceeds also go to Pink Boots.
Okay.
So I was at chapter 2 at the time, and I had asked my boss, who's a female, I said, I'd really like to do this brew day. I don't know what we're going to do or who's going to brew with me.
Just get the ball rolling.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, we have to order the hops, so let's start there. So we did that, and then that was November, December of last year. What I don't even know what year it is.
20-something.
It's early 2020s. Hops were delivered in January, and so at that point it was like, okay, well, what can we do? Like, normally the females that work in the brewery will get together and brew. Well, it was really just me. I'm also the only female brewer in the area.
The only beer brewer.
Beer brewer, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just kind of looked around, and I was like, is there anyone else that's female that's doing something in this sort of like alcohol
in the fermentation industry
Fermentation.
or
Yeah.
close. Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
And I had found just by looking at different wineries, because I was planning on like a wine trip, that was something different. But like I found Allison that was at Colio in Harrow. I emailed her, and then because I was like itching to get ready and like to start, I hadn't heard back in like 2 days. So then I
That's too long.
Yeah, I was like, well, she's not interested,
Yeah.
So, and this was also over New Year's. So
Sure.
No
excuses. Check your emails.
In my mind, I was like, I don't take time off, So someone else had mentioned there was a female winemaker at Sprucewood.
Right.
So I emailed Tanya. And then they both kind of emailed back sort of at the same time. And they were like, sounds great. Tell me more. So I met with Allison, and she said to me, I also have a female assistant winemaker with me. And then I also know the distiller at Wolfhead, and she's also female. So I was like, great, let's like build this dream team,
Sure. Let's take a minute here to mention Wolfhead. We are sponsored tonight by the lovely people over at Wolfhead.
Yes.
They are taking care of our swag this evening. And a big shout out to Aislinn, who is the head distiller at Wolfhead, and we will be tasting her bitters at the end of this. So thank you, Wolfhead, for Wolfhead Distillery out in Amherstburg for being a part of this. So tell us more. So you were caught off guard suddenly by the sudden response of the women in the industry looking to join you on this project.
Yeah, and actually, I was really excited because we're all pretty much around the same age. So it was like young women, very knowledgeable, very educated, very experienced, very good at what they do.
Yes.
So I knew that even just planning the brew, I was the only brewer of beer. So recipe design was more like in my hands, but it was really nice to have their input on different things we could do. And one thing that I really wanted to try and do from the very beginning was incorporate wine and elements from the distillery so that we could all sort of have our hand in the beer. So we basically looked at the hops and we looked at the breakdown of the aroma and the some of the alpha acids and the flavors.
Flavor profiles of taste and
yeah. And it's usually pink. I don't know why, but the Pink Booth blend is usually like very floral, very aromatic. So it kind of lends itself to like an IPA,
of course,
or an APA. So we went with an APA, and one of the aromas that was listed was rose. And I thought, okay, perfect. Like that's a unique element. We live in the Rose City. And every time I think rose, I think of Golden Girls. Like that's where my mind goes. So Aislinn put together kind of like a very specific botanical blend for our beer.
Right.
That we just sort of threw in there as dry hops.
Okay.
And then we put some wine in at the end to kind of give it a pinkish color. So we got all of those elements in there. And then I thought, if you ever watch Golden Girls, every time, Betty White as Rose tries to kind of get involved or like share something that she knows, they're like,
shut up, Rose.
Yeah, they're like, shut up, Rose. And I just thought, for women in this industry, we might not hear those exact words, but we kind of just get ignored, or it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Or like you'll say, oh, hey, I went to school and I did this thing and I know this. And then
shut up, Rose.
Someone else will be like, oh yeah, I did some Googling.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's totally the same thing. So I just thought it's so apropos. We could really play with the label and everything, which we did. We had a really cool,
fantastic can design on that. I wish we had.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I was going to bring one.
That's okay.
Forgot. My husband designed the label, so that was exciting for me.
He did. Oh, wonderful.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Matt, the label maker. That was a fantastic label design. I did not know that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I stood over his shoulder and was like, do this, do that, but he did it. Yeah. And honestly, like the beer itself turned out really well.
Okay.
It released on National Beer Day, which was April 7th. And we had such a small quantity, but the cans that were available at Chapter 2 sold out in 45 minutes. The beer that we had on tap was gone within like 2 days. And then Wolfhead took some kegs and theirs were gone within a couple days. So, and then we had people calling, like we started a waiting list. People would just come in every day. And the thing that was really exciting for me was that it was people that had never heard of Chapter 2, didn't really maybe drink beer, or it was women that were like, I've not really excited about beer, but I thought this was really cool, or I want to buy it for my daughter. Or
the idea behind the project was much more than the beer itself. And for anyone in Essex County that was lucky enough to try that beer, I myself was one of the lucky ones. The beer was fantastic. Yeah, it turned out exactly as anyone had hoped. There was a little bit of feedback from the homebrew shop as well.
Oh yeah, because you made kits. Yeah,
that's right. Tammy brought in some of the Pink Boots hops for me at Jake's Windsor Brew, run the homebrew shop there, and we were able to get that out the door. Obviously minus the botanicals, but it was still a fine APA. The Pink Boots hops were there. I don't have many left. It was a good push on that. So that was a lot of fun. Something else came of that too, didn't it? You're talking about women in the industry and kind of in the same boat that you were. I want to get into this. So if you wanted to touch on that a little bit, by all means.
I think you might have to guide me a little more, but I think I will say to start, a lot of things happen, and I would say almost all of them are positive. So one, I will say that the 4 women that I brewed with are all now like good friends.
Yes. You guys have created your own little coven.
Yes, you got a coven, which is fine because witches brew, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
So they are good friends, but it's also really amazing to have close friends that also are in the same industry, so we can message each other and ask questions, that kind of thing. Right. So that's awesome. I know that we were featured in some different places, like Brewers Journal of Canada, shared our story. Even before the beer was released, we were on CTV locally. We had 2 different newspaper articles go out, 2 different radio interviews. So that was awesome. And then Aislinn was also featured in a magazine for distilling or women in distilling.
Women in distilling, yeah.
Yeah. And she said she's also been asked to give like a Zoom presentation on distilling for Pink Boots Canada.
Very cool.
So that was awesome. And then, yeah. So like that all is amazing. And then we it took some doing, but we convinced everyone to like make it again. So we made a second batch, and that also like sold really quickly. And if you're listening and you want to try it, the only place to really get it at this point is at Sprucewood Shores. They have cans. So yeah, and I am actually going to submit the beer for what is it? An award.
You know nothing about awards, so you don't win them.
Right.
A People's Choice Award for Pink Rose. No, that's
but
fantastic.
Yeah, something national. I can't remember right now. But
Sure.
So I'm going to do that and, just see what happens.
Awesome.
And,
yeah. Hey, you want to get things done, you make them happen. So, and that Pink Boots beer, I think was a phenomenal thing that you did for women in the industry. It's brought women who didn't even know that this is what they wanted to do into the industry.
And that's probably where you were going. Yes. So, yeah, no, I had done a couple interviews on the radio, and the women that interviewed me said, what would you tell people who want to get involved in brewing? And I said, really just start, because everyone's like, it's so overwhelming.
Of course.
And
it took me a year to brew my first beer after I bought the kit, because I was I was lost. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and I think what's important to remember is that you're probably going to mess up at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think of our first brew, and it was like all the things that we really messed up while we were doing it, and like stuff that we did that was like, why did we do that? That was so hard. We could have done it this way, but it turned out.
Yeah.
So I tell people, like, just start, go visit you, get the kit, get the equipment. But I did have a woman call me, and she called me at the brewery, and she said she was interested in maybe changing her career, and she was interested in brewing. And then she heard, or she saw the one of the interviews, and she thought, okay, like maybe this is a sign, and so she came and talked to me at the brewery, and then she shadowed me on a couple different brews.
She came and talked to you at the brewery. You guys spent a solid 2-3 hours just talking about the industry.
Yeah, we were talking. I gave her a tour, and she had already done a lot of like research and studying, and like she was very knowledgeable. And
we're talking about you, Ellie.
Yeah, Ellie. Just throwing that out there. And I was like, she already kind of knows a lot of what she's doing. And then that was on a Wednesday. I remember it's only been like 2 months. That was on a Wednesday. Thursday, she came on Friday to brew with me. Yeah. And then immediately after that, she went to you and bought all of her equipment, She did, So she was like really gung-ho. And then she actually brewed the second Women's Day batch with me. So that was kind of special.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I've just been trying to kind of like, I guess, mentor her. I call her my Padawan. And then through you, really, I mean, everything's kind of interconnected here, but I got her hooked up at Bearded Dog, and now she's training at Bearded Dog.
Yeah, she is. I was lucky enough to brew with her on Monday this week. And like you said, she's got herself figured out. And it's nice to see an up-and-coming, another woman in the industry, right? It is a very male-dominated industry. And to see that wall kind of being broken down everywhere, but we see what we're exposed to, and being in Essex County, to see women growing in this industry, I think is fantastic. The original brewers were women, right? They were. So
10,000 years ago. And I love that she's at Bearded Dog, because they are great people, but they also have one of their owners is female, and then Melissa is their cook, and she's female, and she brewed the other award-winning beer.
Exactly.
And so I love that we're taking over.
Absolutely. Take over.
Yeah.
Take over. Let the men sit back and let the women brew for them. No, I'm kidding.
Right. We're good at brewing because we're good at cleaning. That's what I hear.
Ooh, well, we'll skip right over that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love hearing all of the things that you've experienced, because you yourself haven't actually been in Essex County for that long now, right? A couple of years,
almost
maybe
2 years. Yeah,
2 years. And for you to come in and come out of the gates, I guess, if you will, so quickly, make a name for yourself in the industry. As you said, we're all interconnected. The brewing community is very, very close knit.
Yeah, and it's small as well.
It is small,
everyone knows everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of us. I remember the day of the competition. Us, we were all talking a little smack to each other, and that's fun. But it to create that sense of community, that sense of there's no competition, right? Regardless of what brewery you work at, we still share ideas.
Yeah,
and I'm going to help you brew the best beer that you can brew, even though I'm brewing a beer. At another brewery.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm going to come to your brewery and I'm going to drink your beer and enjoy it. And you're going to come to my brewery and drink my beer.
We all trade beer. And, honestly, and years ago, we went to Portland, Oregon and Eugene, which is like West Coast beer, headquarters. And then I also lived in Minneapolis for a long time. But it's like you go to those places and there's so many breweries and you go to one. And then you're like, this is amazing. I love this beer. And then they're like, okay, but have you been wherever yet? And then they send you to another brewery. And it's so awesome that everyone just sort of encourages each other. But at the same time, when I would have people come in wherever I worked and say, well, I don't really drink any of this. And I'd say, okay, well, I know so-and-so has a beer like that.
Absolutely.
You should go there. And for me, I feel like, why not do that?
Absolutely. And you're right, because, you can't brew for every palate that's out there. And if you think that you can, then you've already lost the game. So instead of getting upset about it, just share the wealth, right? We're all going to drink. I mean, we're drinking right now during this podcast. Yeah. This Grove beer is fantastic. And I can only expect that it's going to get better. So no offense to Donovan, but again, he'll have words when he comes in here too, I'm sure.
He'll do his episode. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess my other question to you is where do you see the scene growing? If growing, changing the craft beer scene, not just craft beer, the fact that you worked with Allison and Tanya over from Spruce Wood to experience fermentation from a different scale. Us being brewers, we're so used to how beer works. You start breaking down cider, wines, distilling. We may have mediocre knowledge in it, but it's not what we do for a living. So to hear different input from different people in the industry, how do you see the scene growing in Windsor, Essex, or further? What events or things?
I think there definitely is room for more micro nano breweries. When I talk to some people, they're like, oh, we don't have a brewery in Essex, or we don't have a brewery in LaSalle, and I feel like there are places that something like that could plug in very easily. I also feel like now that the border is open again, a lot of the breweries in the area are less than 5 years old.
Absolutely.
So having the last 2 years of no access to the US, I think maybe things have been a little stagnant, but now that people can go over there and see like, wow, this is what's going on over there. We want some of that here.
Absolutely.
So I think in that sense, there's room, but also conversely, people are going to come over from, Michigan and want interesting stuff too.
Right. And we want them to come over from Michigan and go, this is great too.
Right.
Just because the Michigan scene is so big.
Right.
For them to come over and just see, as you said, this stagnant, beer scene. We'd rather. Yeah. So for sure, to build that community, to make events, beer festivals.
Yeah.
And you're right, to see that grow. And, anyone in the Windsor, Essex County area that is looking to get into the industry, it is slow right now as far as talent out there is concerned. So, if you're a home brewer out there with, your buddies.
with a lot of money.
With a lot of money. If your buddies have been telling you for the last couple of years, you should be doing this for a living, now might be the time,
Yeah, I think there's going to be growth. I think also everything opening again, there's going to be more festivals. I do also think, this is just from like what I'm seeing, but I feel like there is also room for maybe more even like micro craft distilleries.
Of course.
We do have like a really thriving winery scene.
Yes.
But who's to say like that can't change in some way? And I've told my coven, as you say, I'm like, my my goal, my dream is that we're all going to get together on a commune and we're going to have a winery, a brewery, and a distillery all run by women somewhere like out on a farm,
Absolutely.
Essex County, and that'll be the thing. And
that sounds
everything
fantastic.
In one place, And then I'm going to bring my bakery friend too, because then we can just give her the grain and the fruit and,
Right. We can't have something like that without having some delicious breads or baked goods in that scenario. So absolutely. I think that's great that you can have that vision of these things that can happen, and especially with the new collaboration between wineries and distilleries, everything together. Like, who knows what can be unlocked doing these things, using wine or botanicals from the distill, using vodkas, whiskeys, rum, barrels, even, getting things like that involved.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a big thing coming up soon. Some places are already doing it, maybe not on a larger scale, but
sure.
Barrel aging.
Again, going back to Essex County is not as big as, we're not California. We're not all of these places that have been established, in even Michigan itself being, these large breweries. There's maybe one or two breweries in the area that are big enough to even have the floor space to bury an oak barrel, on their floor.
Yeah.
So, but microbreweries, nano breweries, I do think I agree with you that I think that's going to be the next big thing to push.
Yeah. And I think people too, everything here is very farm centric, and I think people want to support local. And so having a local, our baker friend in Amherstburg was I would love just my local. He's from the UK, so that's why he calls it that. He's I just want somewhere I can just go after work and have a couple pints and go home. And I think having
within walking distance,
something, in town, so maybe you're not drawing all these tourists necessarily, but it is something that could be on the beer trail. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of potential for exciting things here.
And Essex County being the wine area, we're not the Niagara region by any means, but we do, like you said, have a very prominent wine scene. There's constantly wine tours, bus tours that do all of that. There's Explore the Shore that takes care of a lot of the wineries and farms in the area. To have something, a beer tour, if you will, where a standard path that everyone can take and hit all the breweries. That's big in Michigan. Why shouldn't we have that here?
Yeah.
And it doesn't all necessarily need to be Windsor. We've got such a huge growing scene outside of Windsor, Amherstburg, Kingsville, Harrow, the beer dog being in Harrow, right? So to see all that would be fantastic. And we got to start somewhere. So building that community as a group, as the group that you said, that your coven, and our relationships with all of the other brewers in the area, for us to work together, a lot of us being the same age, we're all in this for the same purpose. We love beer. We love what we do. So
we also know that we'll never be able to retire.
Ever.
We can't afford to. So we'll just work till we die.
That's right. And so that's why we brew alcohol, because at least
right. Sometimes I'm texting my friends. I'm isn't it great that we work somewhere that we can have alcohol, because sometimes work is stressful, and I know I come home and I drink wine, and they'll come home and drink beer. And it's funny. You spend all day working with this thing, and then you're like, I need a break. And then you'll do the other thing.
I come home from work and I drink water because, I've been drinking beer all day at work.
Yeah.
People come home and they crack a beer. I come home and crack a Dasani or something.
Yeah, right. Ooh.
What do you have on tap? Water. Sparkling. Because nothing beats tasting beer at 9:00 in the morning too, right?
Yeah, and it's never like a beer. It's warm. It's not carbonated. It's not done fermenting. It's just it's not beer.
That's why I used the word tasting beer, because it's not what did you do this afternoon? I drank beer. No, I tasted beer this morning. It was sour. It was warm. Running the homebrew store, I have tasted customer beers.
Yeah, I know.
I have
but that's how they learn.
That's how they learn, and that's how I learn, because your palate. Going back to the beginning, the introduction to brewing as a home brewer, to say that you've never brewed a bad beer would be blasphemous. Everyone has brewed a bad beer. The idea is to drink that beer, though, understand why it's bad. Yeah. And like you said, I that's part of being in the scene is tasting beer and learning what's good and what's bad about it. And I've drank beer out of a hockey water bottle from the 80s, those old like squirt bottles. Yeah. And you know what? But you do it and you learn what to taste and you know, you build your palate. Hopefully.
Yeah. I will say what I do love about homebrewing, and I still homebrew, is that it's on the smaller side. It's pretty cheap other than some like time. And so I feel like, you know what, if it didn't work, okay, dump it and move on to the next one. Cause it's like,
for the $20.
Are we gonna like slog through this really awful keg of whatever, you know, like you had at our place that one time. And then I think I dumped it the next day, you know, and
thanks for that beer, by the way. It was delicious.
Right. It tasted like iron water probably. But yeah, it's like, why? Like life is too short to just be drinking like crappy beer.
Exactly.
You know, really. So
especially when you're in the market to be able to brew whatever you want. I mean, you can brew an award-winning beer in one take, and then in the next, brew some swamp water that you don't even want to give to your friends.
And I think that's like interesting to note is that, you can make a really great beer, and then the next one just like doesn't work out for some reason,
right?
Unbeknownst to everybody, and it's just not great. Yeah, you know. And
there's a little line to touch on for any of the home brewers that are listening. That happens. It still happens. You know, it happens in the big leagues. It happens to the small. It happens to the big. Brew beer and it turns out, or you brew beer and it doesn't turn out. I would be lying if I said that I haven't dumped out a beer in the last 6 months. So you know, it's part of the gig. Sometimes things happen. You don't know what they are. You know, or sometimes you do know what they are. And
and you try to fix it. And it's interesting too that you can make something that you think is awesome, and then customers are like, "Yeah, it was okay." Yeah, you know, we like that other one, and you're like, "That one was so bad.
It was trash.
Right?
I wanted to dump that beer."
So it's like you never really know what people are gonna drink.
Yeah,
and a lot of it is marketing and etc. So it's like,
marketing being the big one. Yeah, and it's hard when you're constantly pushing out all these delicious beers and no one knows that they're there, other than the regulars that come into your shop. And that again, that's part of the industry too. Yeah, you know, find yourself a place where you can hopefully have
a niche. Or,
have a following. And, you know, build your brand, but also you know, working in a brewery, I'm sure you see that there's beers that need to be made.
Yeah,
because that's what pays the bills.
Yep.
So you are, your home brewers that are listening again. If you are looking to get into it, you're going to be brewing a lot of light.
You're gonna be brewing 40 hectoliters of lager in 2 days.
There you go. You know, hopefully you got a good lager recipe laying around.
Yeah,
it was that one beer you brewed the one time in winter and it turned out really.
I know, that's the thing. Yeah, you make something one time and I was like, oh, you should make that again, or like, oh, this is a one-off, and then you know. And that could be too, like you said, Malibu Barbie, and it's like I made it and it was like this passion project, and I loved making it. But then it's like if I had to do it all the time, at some point I'd be like, I don't want to toast coconut anymore. That's right. Like I'm sick of it.
Sick of the smell of coconut.
Yeah, and so then you don't want to like go the other way, and you just hate it. Right. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. It's funny we're talking about. That like brewing multiple things that are the same thing over and over again. You and I have a very different style of brewing, and I love that. You know, there's the old saying in the industry: you can ask 10 different brewers and you get 10 different answers. I myself, I'm more of the rogue brewer type, if you will. I write nothing down, and you know, beer just happens to work for me. But Tammy, you are the opposite of that. You like to keep a plethora of notes, which is fantastic, and the proper way to do things for those of you that are listening. Write things down. You know, record your gravities, record the music that you're listening to while you're brewing. Keep notes.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking to repeat recipes. I myself, I don't want to say I don't like to repeat recipes, but I brew for fun. You know, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So whatever sells, if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I'm not relying on my taps to pay my bills.
I was going to say, like you have to have that repeatability and that consistency.
Yeah.
You know, in a microbrewery.
Right. And should I find myself in a situation like that, sure, I'll change I'll change the way that I do things. Yeah. But right now I don't have to. But you, luckily enough, are able to do that. You have, because of your going into it, the way that you brew things, you have had that experience into being able to replicate should you choose to do so.
I just like, also as a child of the 80s, probably undiagnosed with ADHD.
Aren't we all?
We all are. And so I feel like my brain is always doing 30 different things. And I'm thinking about like, okay, this is mashing. And then I have 45 minutes and then I have to do this and I have to do that. So for me, I write a lot of things down so that I can remember what I'm supposed to be doing. Not what I did, but what I need to do, if that makes sense. And so I always have a list going.
A delegation of tasks.
Yeah.
To be done,
And there are a lot of times where I've made something more than once and I'm like, well, when did I add that? What day? How much? And then I flip back and sometimes I'm like, oh, I never wrote it down, But I feel like it's important. And I like to ask a lot of questions and I like to, write everything down.
Yes.
And I will say, like, with technology, it's not even like that, amazing, but like an iPad. Now I'll go in and I'll take pictures of everything if I'm in a new place, and then I can just sort of like label the pictures, or I can take a video.
Yes.
Because way back when, it was like someone shows you how to do something and you're like, I'm not going to remember that in 10 minutes. So I do take a lot of notes. I just find it helpful. But then sometimes I go through and I'm like, God, I made this beer so long ago. It wasn't that great. Why am I saving this? And then I just trash that recipe or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tasting notes would be another thing, I suppose, that would work well with recipes, especially, again, going back to the home brewing side of things. All you home brewers out there, if you do keep notes, get your friends to write down things about your beer. Tell them why you liked it or why they liked it. And, maybe something that you brewed wasn't fantastic. All your friends liked. Right. If all your friends liked it, then there's a chance if you decide to start up a microbrewery, it might hit.
Right. And I think that's important too, because we all, like we talked about earlier a little bit, we all have different palates. And we even had a beer today and someone was saying like, oh, I really get a lot of like citrus and whatever. And I'm like, I don't smell anything. And it's like tasting, my husband will taste certain things and I don't taste those things, so we all just taste differently.
Absolutely.
And there are some flavors that are specific off flavors.
Yes.
That some people are really, able to pick up very easily and other people are not. And so it's helpful to have multiple people taste things.
Absolutely.
And it's also just to get feedback. Like, what I made this. What did you all think?
Yeah.
Like, should I make it again? Kind of thing,
I want to hear. I want to hear what you liked about it. I want to hear what you didn't like about it.
Yeah.
And like you said, the difference in palates. Oh, this is citrusy. I don't taste any citrus in there.
Right.
What you pull from it is, a lot of it is mental too. And we all know that if someone tells you that this beer is not that great, and you take a sip of it right away, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's not that great. And then you try one the next day, and you're like, I don't know what I was talking about. This beer is fantastic.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Did I brush my teeth within the last 5 minutes?
Well, that's the other thing too. I would have people saying, "Oh, this didn't taste right," or a customer complaint, and I'm like, "Okay, well, what are they eating?" And et cetera. Like, "Oh, they're eating something with like vinegar or barbecue sauce." Whatever, it's like that affects everything.
Absolutely. Like a fine wine, you want to pair your beer with the proper food,
right?
Or toothpaste.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Awesome. So going back to Wolfhead being our sponsor this evening, we do have some of Aislin's special bitters here.
Bitters, yep.
So Aislinn, being the head distiller at Wolfhead, took some of the Pink Boots hops, and she created our now. Okay, so here, you know more about these than I do, so feel free to talk about them and give a little shout out to Aislinn.
She ran down the ingredients today, and I can only remember some of them, but basically,
are you telling me with your ADHD brain you did not write them down?
I was also drinking coffee and hearing about the canner not working, and then also being told to check the boil. So it's like there were 10 things going on.
Brewery life,
right? So yeah, she has two different bitters that are like for the summer. So there's citrus and there's summer bitters, and the summer bitters have the Pink Boots hops.
Very good.
And I want to say she also said pineapple and coconut and maybe cherry.
Now we're giving away our secret.
There's more, I know. And then the citrus has citrus. I think orange peel, dandelion. One of them has licorice. These are a lot of like distilling ingredients that are like, oh yeah, those are all like very basic and I don't remember them. But I asked her as I was like driving here, like what would we do with them? What's the best way to feature them? And she said like anything that's like fruity, like tiki kind of like theme, like would be amazing. And so, yeah, I tried them both. The way to do it is you just put a little like on your like a tequila shot. I don't know.
Sure.
Just a couple drops and you taste it. And then I also have soda water because I had read seen somewhere that that's like something that people are doing as sort of like a non-alcoholic option.
Right. Yeah. The soda water being so flavorless that.
Yeah. And these have alcohol, but you're only using a few drops. And so, yeah, you just sort of do it in there and you make your own little like seltzer. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know if you want to try that one.
Absolutely. So this is the citrus bitters.
Yes.
From Wolf Head. And so we're going to dip a little bit on our thumb here.
Sure, whatever.
Is that the plan?
Wherever.
And then just kind of like throw it back into the
cup. Or just take a little lick. These are, I mean, yeah, you just smell it and it's like
you can really get the citrus out of that right away. That is that's very pleasant. That would go really well and
this one is spicy, I think.
It's got a little bit of a bite to it. Yeah, that would go really well in like a mojito or something. I know you don't really add bitters to a mojito, but that feels like it would carry really well.
Well, so my mother-in-law is from the Caribbean, and their thing is rum punch, and like everyone has their own rum punch recipe, and hers uses a dash of bitters.
Okay.
And so I feel like that would be really nice
in a rum punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one of them, and then we have the summer.
Let me clean off my other thumb here.
Yeah, right. Just switch sides.
And of course, we're both probably covered in grain dust from the work day. So we both worked today as well.
In a lot of stuff today.
And there's some sounds of us just licking our thumbs right now.
Right. It's like we between us have 1,000 dogs.
Right.
You know that sound of just licking.
I want to give a shout out to my 3 dogs, Vera, Magic, and Silly, for this one. And
I'll say hi, Boomer.
Hi, Boomer.
This
one's interesting. Yeah.
When I did it just now, I got more of the coconut. I find this one to be more bitter, but I mean they are bitters. But this is the one that had the hops.
I see.
So I feel like, and
that would go really good in a Manhattan or something.
Yeah.
Like it's got that darker punch to it, you know.
And I don't want to say for sure because I don't know, but she had a set of bitters from the winter that were like really amazing.
Oh, okay.
She had 3 different flavors and I tried those as well and they were so good.
And so this is her summer bitters.
Yeah, this is the summer version. Yeah.
So there you go. So anyone interested in trying the bitters that Tammy and I just, you listened to us lick off of our thumbs or watched for those watching on YouTube, head down to Wolfhead Distillery in Amherstburg. Again, they're our sponsor tonight for our first episode of Brew Talk. And a big shout out to Aislinn for hooking us up with these tonight. And that's fantastic. Yeah, they were both really good. I don't know if I had to pick it, you know, they're situational. I feel like the summer bitters I would probably want to use in a Manhattan or a darker spiced rum drink or something like that.
Yeah.
The citrus bitters, though, you're right, has more of like that punch feel, that fruit punch. That's something you'd want. I want mint. I want muddled mint in there with that.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that they suggest recipes too on their Instagram, so you can follow them. And
awesome.
I feel like I work at Wolfhead.
Right. Big shout out to Wolfhead.
Follow us on Instagram. Yeah, right.
Follow Wolfhead on Instagram.
Right.
Follow The Grove on Instagram. Follow Jake's
Yes, you should.
Brew on Instagram. So.
And I will say too, like, not to back up, but again, ADHD. When we talked about this Women's Day beer that I did, I actually got a message like within, I don't know, maybe like a week or so of it being released. And it was from someone at the Grove. And they said, hey, you know, we loved this project that you did. And we would love to talk to you about getting more women involved in brewing. And like, you know, how do we have that sort of presence in the brewery? And, you know, maybe we can do something. And, you know, I don't know. And I was like, okay, like, let's chat. I will talk to anybody. I know you know how I feel. I will talk to anybody that wants to talk about this. So I met with Rick from the Grove and we just talked, and I kind of like we did here. I just kind of gave him my story and my background, etc. And then eventually that kind of turned into a job offer.
A job opportunity. And quite the job opportunity at that. So, how big of a system are you brewing on now?
It's a 10-barrel system.
A 10-barrel system.
We have 2 40 hectoliter fermenters to 20 hectoliters, and I think 4, 5, 10 hectoliter. And then we have 2 little baby unit tanks that are like one or 2 barrels.
Sure. The old pilot systems. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that being said, is there anything you want to close up shop with and maybe give some advice to some up and coming women in the industry? If you want to get a hold of Tammy, she is available at the Grove Brewery Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. No.
9 to whenever. Yeah, I'll say like I did before. Basically, like, don't feel intimidated by brewing itself, because it gets easier. Like, once you learn what you're doing and you learn the steps, etc., you figure it out. And a lot of it's kind of repetitive type thing. I will say there is some intimidation being in a male-dominated industry, but I feel like that's a lot of women in any industry. A lot of industries do definitely carry that, and you're right. I'm sorry. Right. Yeah. So I would say, like, don't worry about that. And I think for me, it helped a little that I was older and I was just kind of like,
you're not dealing with bullshit.
I'm sick of this shit. Yeah. And I've been doing this for, 25 years or whatever already. So I will say, don't worry about that. And don't let other people, make you feel in a way that you shouldn't be where, you shouldn't be doing this job, or that you can't do this job kind of thing. So that's all the preachy stuff. But then I will say, like, if anyone ever wants to talk about brewing or has questions, definitely contact me. I'm on Instagram at the brewess. I would love to have people come brew with me.
Yeah.
Even at home, I have a much smaller system at home. I would send them to you.
Absolutely.
To get kits and ingredients, get some books. There are some pretty, like, really, really comprehensive online learning programs. So I would say just start.
Just do it. Just do it. Just get your feet wet, and literally and figuratively, because it's just not brewing unless your socks are wet. Just dive right in. And like Tammy said, you can follow her on Instagram at the Brewess, or you can follow Jake's Windsor Brew, which is where I am. The Hop Shop has on Instagram as well, the Home Brew Shop. And at any time, come and talk to myself, Eric, at Jake's Windsor Brew, or go down to the Grove and say hi to Tammy.
Buy you a beer.
If you're catching this interview before too long, Tammy will be hosting a how to brew class, working with us over at Jake's Windsor Brew in the Hop Shop, and this is going to be for women only. We want to offer this class for
we want a safe space.
Safe space, women in the industry that want to do it, and maybe don't want to have to listen to a guy tell them how to do something that they already know how to do. But to have the most renowned female brewer in Essex County teaching the class.
I mean, I guess, like I said today, I'm an award-winning brewer, but it's like people's choice at Masters of the Brewers. But whatever,
that's an award.
It's on the resume.
That's an award. A win is a win.
Right.
And people's choice, to me, I think speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Because that's 200, 300 people.
Yeah.
Or more. I'm not quite sure how many people. I know
I
it was
don't know
at least 300, I think, came in. So that means 300 people.
And it's just crazy, because I feel like I'm not really one of those people that, like, wins things, but especially since this was, like, something that I did, like, myself. But then, when they're like, who do we think it is? And everyone's, like, shouting out Barbie. I was just like, oh my God.
What?
Like,
really? That's me.
I know. I was like, I know people said they liked it, but it's like,
your friends came up to you.
And if the brewer's there, you're going to be like, oh, I loved yours. And then, so I was like, yeah, okay, sure.
Well, I can assure you, I didn't dump out a Malibu Barbie beer that night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the names of the beer.
I was going to say I did dump a couple things, but
we won't talk about that. So I guess that being said, thank you so much for being on this. I appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you on again. This was our first episode of Brew Talk. So maybe we could revisit down the line and talk about your career at the Grove now, and how well you've established yourself, and maybe next time we can get you and Donovan on here together, and we can talk about beer and brewing. I'm really excited to get more feedback from other industries. I want to have Aislinn on here from Wolfhead to talk about distilling and how that's affected her. And we're going to speak to some winemakers as well. So here on Brew Talk, it's going to be more than just beer.
Yeah. That's good.
Thanks everyone for listening, and
Thank you.
We hope to see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Outro music. Oh, do we
cheers? I don't know. Why not?
Absolutely.
And we're drinking seltzer.
We are finishing.
It's not boring water. It's seltzer. It's seltzer.
It's a seltzer. It is a Canadian maple.
I figured it, right? It had to be.
There we go. If it's a Canadian show, we might as well finish with some maple.
Right.
So, all right. Well, till next time. Thanks for joining us here on Brew Talk. And
thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.